Tonight, pumping the brakes on late-night parties at the beach.
So on the weekends, it's a fiasco.
Which 3 popular beaches are restricting parking Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays starting at 7 tomorrow night? And the bizarre cause behind the grass fire that shut down the 407 highway this evening.
This is a treat, especially looking at vintage Porsches.
Revving up spirits at retirement homes, the classy move to bring joy to seniors during the pandemic. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. It was a dangerous and deadly day on GTA roads today. In Vaughan, a mother of 2 was killed this afternoon. She was hit by an SUV that drove off a second-floor parking garage. The driver of that SUV also died.
It's a very tragic scene, a very dynamic scene. There's a lot of evidence here to be gathered.
It all happened near Kiel and Rutherford just before 1:30 this afternoon. When police arrived, the woman was found on the 2nd story of the parking lot, but she was already dead. We're learning more about her tonight from a man who says he was her boss. He and his colleagues became worried when she didn't come back from her lunch break today.
She didn't come back, so we started calling her phone. She wasn't answering, so then we decided to come back and take a look, and I noticed that her truck was here. So I immediately went to the police, and they told us that it was our employee. She's a wonderful person. She's been an incredible employee, great heart. She's got 2 young kids, and just an amazing person. And just, it's very sad because she couldn't find a nicer person.
So the driver of the SUV also died, and a female passenger in that vehicle was also taken to the hospital. Police are asking anyone who witnessed the incident or has dash cam footage to contact them. And now to Mississauga. Peel police have located the driver of a tractor trailer involved in a fatal hit and run last night. This one just before midnight at Hurontario and Dundas. The victim was a 55-year-old man who was riding his bike when the truck hit him and failed to stop. He was rushed to the hospital where he later died. Friends of the victim say his name was Robert, and he was an outreach worker returning from a shift at a nearby needle exchange.
He's a popular character. Everyone knows him. We all know each other. We're all kind of a family here. It's an extended family in this area.
And a lot of people know him. He's well known around here. This is a very sad situation and horrible. It's horrible to know what happened to him.
And friends also say Robert had cancer and was in remission. Police say the driver of the truck is cooperating with their investigation. Staying in Mississauga, 2 women are in life-threatening condition tonight after they were hit by a car. Just before 9 this morning, the crash happened near Torbram and Renna roads. Both women have been taken to a trauma center with serious injuries. New tonight, a grass fire in Mississauga that shut down Highway 407 for hours. And it was all because of a bird. Peel police say the bird hit a power line in the area of Tompkin Road and Farmhouse Court. It caused a spark when it landed on the ground, igniting the dry, brittle grass. Because the scene lies on the border between Brampton and Mississauga, fire departments from Caledon, Brampton, and Mississauga worked together to fight the fire. It is now out, and the 407 has reopened in both directions. Next up, parents and students are speaking out tonight about the uncertainty of what school will look like in the fall. Lauren Pelly now with what the education minister is hoping for, and the families fed up with hope and looking for answers.
It's not very good boinging.
This is what every workday is like for Alison Benditti. She's been juggling her job and watching her 3 boys for months now.
It's unsustainable, and I've talked about this a lot. I have cried on at least a dozen times because you feel like you're failing as a parent, and as you know, I feel like I'm failing my clients. I feel like I'm failing at some point in each day. I'm failing somebody, right? Somebody's losing, and it's always going to be me, though.
She's among those hoping kids are back in school this fall so parents can stay in the workforce.
I also run a group of 5,000 women. It's all working mothers. And I think there's a common thread of despair and a common thread of abandonment.
I understand fully that parents in this province want to know with clarity what September will look like.
Ontario's education minister says there's a goal in mind.
Thank you. The government's preference is everyday, day-to-day delivery, 5 days a week, in class.
But that's far from certain. It all depends on how widely COVID-19 is spreading, and there's no guarantee any final plan will keep kids in class full-time. A memo shared in part with CBC Toronto says boards will be directed to create adaptive plans that have no virtual learning day. Sent to school boards by the head of the Council of Ontario Directors of Education, it says that means face-to-face learning all 5 days of the week, so a 2 to 3 model or a 3 to 2 model over a 2-week time period.
Some of these ideas of children going for 1 week and then home the next week, or going for 2 days and not the other days, I'm just not sure how that is viable from a risk reduction from a health point of view, but also from the point of view of who is supposed to be working.
Every decision the government makes should be made with a lens as to whether or not it brings us closer or further away from opening schools and opening childcare centres.
Two Toronto School Board trustees say if school boards and the province don't support working parents, entire families will suffer.
We're putting parents in a position where they're forced to choose between work or looking after their children.
So it could be more schooling time, it could be more childcare, it could be parental leave options.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
And those two trustees put forward an emergency motion to the board tonight in hopes of getting the province to think outside the box on how to reboot the school year. We've learned that motion has since passed unanimously. Both the public and Catholic Toronto boards also say they'll release details on their draft plans in the days ahead. Another important education note for you, the province will stop forcing grade 9 students to choose between academic and applied courses beginning in 2021.
Students who are enrolled in applied courses are over 4 times less likely to graduate. In Toronto, 47% of Black students take applied courses, compared to less than 19% for non-Black students. Only 1/3 pursue post-secondary education. It's time we end this practice and give a fair chance to all of our kids.
The education minister says this will happen with the math curriculum first in September 2021. Academic courses typically set students up for university, whereas applied courses are meant to develop essential skills. And the student sticks with the course of study chosen in grade 9 for their entire high school career. Research shows people of color and low-income people are more likely to be steered away from academic courses. That ends up affecting everything from graduation rates to employment prospects later in life. Now to the future of the Toronto Police and the first of 4 chances for public consultations in Toronto in front of the Toronto Police Services Board. The town halls come amid global calls for police reforms, including some right here in Toronto. As Philip Lee Shannock reports, the Civilian Oversight Agency got an earful today.
Right off the bat, board chairperson Jim Hart acknowledged that this was a town hall unlike any other for the police service.
We've arrived here after months of a pandemic that has seen the complete upending of what we knew as a normal way of life.
And in the middle of it all, a global storm of protests sparked by the death of George Floyd in the U.S., but also the deaths of people of color here. Regis Korchinski-Paquette and Ijaz Chowdhury, people in crisis who police had been called to help.
And even here, we've seen thousands join in demonstrations and want to provide an avenue for members of the public to speak directly to us.
More than 350 people registered to speak at this virtual town hall for 3 minutes each. So many so they had to add 3 more sessions to get through them all. Hundreds joined to speak on topics like systemic racism, police excessive force, and accountability in policing. Dianush Yousefi of the Law Union of Ontario said many were watching, hoping for change.
And this is your moment to be the leaders that we need you to be, to effect the kind of change that is morally and ethically required of you.
Some, like Jala Balkasoon, spoke of their experiences with police.
In my life, every interaction I've ever had with the police has been extremely frightening as a person of color. In my community, the police has never been someone to call for help. It's someone to be scared of.
She called for the defunding of the billion-dollar police budget and putting more money into affordable housing and community programs. Others said the next police chief needs to be someone who is not steeped in the current culture. Chief Mark Saunders is leaving the role at the end of the month. Jacqueline Edwards is president of the Association of Black Law Enforcers.
We would like to see someone who has the lived experiences of the racialized and Black communities that he or she or they will be serving in.
She says in the current climate, people want police leadership with the courage to stop systemic racism, racial profiling, and the disproportionate use of force against Black people. Another town hall will be held tomorrow with 2 more next week. Comments will be shared with the police board at their meeting in August. Philip Lishanok, CBC News, Toronto.
And to Durham now, where police are set to see a major change. Chief Paul Martin announced today he will be retiring. He'll remain in the role until September. Martin has led the service for the last 6 years. In a statement today, he wrote, "There was a time in policing where officers and leaders all looked like me. And though change has been slow in this regard, it has been made. I thought that by 2020, we would be seeing some of the success of those many years of hard work by executive teams and the officers we lead and serve. It has turned out to be a very different kind of year." He went on to say, "There has not been a more difficult time to be a police officer in the community in my lifetime." All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Major League Baseball was played in Toronto tonight for the first time this year, and the Jays were sure to win. We'll tell you why coming up. Plus,
Well, relief from this heat is on the way, but you'll have to wait until the weekend to get it. Your full weather forecast after the break.
Welcome back. The city says the late night partying at Toronto beaches is drawing crowds during the pandemic and must stop. So starting tomorrow night at 7, parking will be restricted at 3 popular beaches. Kelda Yoon is live tonight at Etobicoke's Marie Curtis Park. Kelda, that's one of the 3 beaches that will see the crackdown.
That's right, Chris, and you can see behind me there are some bonfires, some groups hanging out, and the city did say that Marie Curtis Park has seen the worst of it. There have been major parties and big bonfires in past weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So starting tomorrow, new parking restrictions will be put in place. The parking lot will be closed, quite a large parking lot will be closed at 7 p.m. on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and these parking restrictions also will be put in place at Cherry Beach as well as Humber Bay West Park. So those are the 3 popular parks and beaches that will have these restrictions. Parking lot closed at 7. Of course, the city hoping that this will help deter some of these larger crowds from forming on the weekends. It was largely a family affair on this stretch of Marie Curtis Park this afternoon. Sharon McDowell brought her granddaughter Evelyn.
I was here last night, I was here the day before.
She says she sticks to this portion of the beach, which is typically free of partiers.
On the west side, on the other side of the Etobicoke River, primarily they're over there. Last week or the week before, there was like 20 fires over there.
We went there, and indeed, remnants of recent bonfires can be found along the beach, as well as litter. Bailey Villeneuve comes here often. She says she's disappointed in the vast amount of garbage being left behind.
It was like all along the beach line. There's freaking fireworks that were left there. There's a whole pile of garbage, like 2 big garbage bags just beside a tree.
Most of these parks and beaches that we're getting complaints for is in regards to crowding issues, people that are not following social distancing.
The city hopes closing the parking lots earlier will lessen the crowds. More bylaw officers will also be on hand this weekend to educate beachgoers.
It comes to a point where sometimes education is not being heard or understood, and at that point we take an enforcement approach.
That means tickets for bonfires, loud parties with DJs, and fireworks. At Humber Bay Park, there have been regular fireworks, which has been a source of frustration for many who live nearby. Claire Kumar says the fireworks have been going off nightly for the past 2 weeks.
They're going well into after midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning.
She believes ticketing will work.
We need a few examples. We need a few people saying, oh, I went and did fireworks and it was not okay, I actually got a ticket.
So, Chris, I did speak to some people here today who are a bit skeptical about these parking restrictions and whether they will deter these large crowds that we've been seeing on the weekends. They say because many of the party goers on the weekends, they tend to come by foot. So they are a bit skeptical about these parking restrictions, whether they will work. But of course, the city hoping that they will work, and they will have signs at the front of the parking lots to remind people it closes at 7 p.m. Friday, Saturday, Sundays. Of course, bylaw officers will also be on hand at all the entrances. And Bluffers Park, that's another park that will see parking restrictions starting this weekend, but not on Fridays. Only Saturdays and Sundays. The parking lot will close at 7 p.m. Typically, it's at midnight. Back to you.
All right, and we will be watching to see the impact of these restrictions. Thanks for this tonight, Kelda. Over at Rogers Centre tonight, it might sound a little quieter, but Major League Baseball has returned to Toronto. Jays versus Jays playing an inter-squad game tonight. So it was the first MLB game played in Toronto this year, and it was the first time since early March the media has been granted access to cover a major sport of any kind in the city. Our Greg Ross was back in his element.
If you've been downtown Toronto this week, you may have noticed a small change to the skyline, an open roof at the Rogers Centre. You can thank Jays manager Charlie Montoyo for that.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do when I got here is for sure open the roof.
That way you feel like you have some fresh air, and so far it's working great.
It's something he says his players needed now that they are essentially quarantined to the Rogers Center, living in the hotel, which provides them direct access to the field.
The way it's working here right now, it's beautiful. We go here, we walk to the hotel, come back over here, we get tested.
For the next 2 weeks, the Jays will play a number of inter-squad games here at the Rogers Center as they prepare for a July 23rd start to the season. And Montoyo says the plan is to make those games as real as possible.
The PA announcer is going to mention the guys' names when they come to hit. We're going to announce the moves. You know, we're going to have music, you know, walk of music. We're going to have, you know, fans' noise, you know.
The team is also trying to create a life for players away from the field instead of only being confined to their rooms when they're not playing.
Ping pong tables and places where when we can, you know, have fun and basketball court and all kinds of stuff. So guys have stuff to do whenever they're not in the ballpark. So that's one of the things I asked them if they could do it, and they've done it.
So a little bit of comfort for Blue Jay players, at least for a couple of weeks, but whether or not it extends beyond that is still up in the air. The Blue Jays are still waiting for clearance from the federal government to be able to travel back and forth to the U.S. when the regular season starts. It's a 60-game shortened season. The Jays will play 30 games on the road, and they also have to host 30 games here. That means bringing in teams from the U.S. to play in Toronto, and some of those teams are coming from some of those hot spots in the U.S. right now where they're seeing a spike in COVID-19 cases. The Jays' first series would be against Tampa, and Florida is definitely one of those hot spots. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Time now for a check on weather with Nick Cernkovich. And Nick, no severe weather like we saw yesterday, but man, was it hot.
Well, Chris, relief is on the way from this oppressive heat, but we're going to have to wait until the weekend to get there. And with it, we're also getting a little bit of rainfall as well. So we're going to talk about all that coming up in your forecast. For now, though, here's your weather headlines. We are still ending the week above 30 degrees, so this heat wave continues once again. We've got some relief on the way, as I mentioned, but thunderstorm activity is what we're forecasting heading into tomorrow, and actually a few days of sort of unsettled weather. We've got heat warnings still in effect across the region there as temperatures are above 30 and humidex values above 40. That's how we're going to end the week. In fact, today we hit 34 degrees in the city of Toronto, 33 down in Windsor with the humidex feeling over 40. The peak humidex values across southern Ontario ranging from about 41 to 43. So that provided some fuel for some thunderstorms north of the GTA through the day today. And as we head into the weekend, we're going to trigger off some more. So let's play this out as we move forward. Moving into tomorrow morning, generally it's going to be pretty clear through the overnight. Clear for most of southern Ontario tomorrow morning, but we've got this line of showers and thunderstorms developing across southwestern Ontario through the late morning, early afternoon hours tomorrow. By the sort of mid to late afternoon hours, look for spotty showers and thunderstorms across the GTA. Continues through tomorrow night and actually sort of continues on and off through Saturday morning and into probably about Saturday afternoon. And then I think as we get toward the later part of the day on Saturday, it clears out. Sunday, the potential for a bit more unsettled weather. We'll get to that in your long-range forecast. For now, though, overnight temperatures tonight, 23, 22 degrees across southwestern Ontario, generally under clear skies, though for tomorrow, we're looking at an earlier start to these rain showers and thunderstorms. Humidex values, though, still up around 40 or more tomorrow, so that muggy weather continues into tomorrow afternoon. For the Golden Horseshoe, temperatures through the overnight, still 22, 21 degrees. Humidex values through the overnight, closer to about 26, 27, 28. So still a very muggy night in store for us across the Golden Horseshoe. Temperatures tomorrow afternoon, highs to about 32, 33 degrees. Humidex values above 40. And I know this looks bad with all these thunderstorms, but this again is sort of a late day thing. Most of the day will be dry. At least the first half of the day will anyway. There's a look at your long range forecast. 28s for Saturday and Sunday. So bit of relief there. Humidex values closer to about 34 to 35 on those days and slightly cooler heading into next week. Chris.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Nick. And we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Before we go, we have to show you this parade of old classic cars at a few GTA long-term care homes today.
This is a treat, especially looking at vintage Porsches, and this is beautiful.
We want to make sure that we bring a little bit of joy for the residents of certain homes that may have been unfairly impacted by COVID. So it's really just bringing a little bit of fun.
A real treat indeed. The GTA Classic Porsche Parade visited 4 retirement homes around the GTA. A series of Porsche classics lined up outside. And as each car was explained over a speaker system, residents were able to get up close and personal with the luxury cars, bringing some much needed entertainment and joy during the pandemic. Beautiful to see. And that, of course, is our show for tonight. Have a great night. I'll be back tomorrow night at 11. Hope to see you then.